Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're listening to this interview anywhere else but within our private Facebook community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, definitely come check us out. We'd definitely love to have you. And that community was put together specifically for coaches, consultants, and service providers who are serious about getting up to that 6 and that 7-figure level. And today, I want to introduce you to one of the members of our community, Matt Dybing. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome, you're welcome. So Matt, tell myself and the rest of the community, what is it that you do?
Yeah, so I am a CPA and I do fractional accounting and CFO work for small businesses, kind of that person who comes in and someone can hand off their accounting to, but not only am I just going to be the bookkeeper, the accountant, kind of doing the day-to-day kind of accounting type of stuff, but I'm really you want to be utilized as a strategic advisor, that CFO level type of person someone can lean on to be able to not only prepare the information, but able to interpret what's going on, how do we make changes, how we make decisions. So owners can really have that confidence knowing, what's happened in the past so they can make decisions going forward. So, advising on that CFO type level.
Yeah, awesome. And what got you started down this path?
Yeah, so I started my career basically how a lot of accountants start their career. I came out of college, got my CPA, worked in the big public accounting firms, went to go then work at a big, large privately held private accounting and publicly traded large corporation. And it was there that I really realized that this is not the life I really wanted. And I knew I always kind of wanted to own my own business, but I thought had to be some type of physical product, some kind of cool innovation. And so I was always just kind of waiting for that idea to come. And then it just kind of hit me that, why don't I just start with what I do know, which is accounting. I'm really good at it. That way, I love the entrepreneurial world, that small business world. And that way I can bring my gifts to the table, my skill set to the table. To partner with other small business owners, entrepreneurs who have that hustle and that kind of drive that I'm attracted to being a part of that community. So anyway, so I just started with that, knowing that, and now looking back, I wish I would have done it, 4 years ago. Like, this is just one of the greatest decisions to make, and just being able to, again, be able to provide my skill set to an area that a lot of people don't necessarily have that skill set when they start their own businesses. They don't start their businesses to do the accounting, to do all of that. So I'm able to kind of bring that to the table.
Yeah, awesome. So it sounds like you said one of the things you just said here is you wish you had gotten started sooner, like 4 years early and stuff like that. So I guess how long did it take you to a point where you started realizing that you wanted to do your own thing to actually making that leap in there?
How long did it take me to realize that?
Yeah.
I think, like I said, it was probably that year in 2017 or 2016, maybe I started getting the inclining, kind of just reading all the books a lot of people, were reading. I think Robert Kiyosaki had a big, influence on that, just kind of putting ahead of just, business owner. So I think it was probably, 3 years into my career that I realized, like, this is not the life I wanted. I looked at my boss's boss's boss, and he's still 3 steps away from the CFO. I'm like, and they're working like crazy hours. I'm like, I want to create a life for myself, for my future family, just to be able to benefit from the work I put in right now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I guess the question now becomes, as far as that ideal client, who would you say is that ideal client for you?
Yeah, it's a business owner who, up to around the $5 million revenue type range, who, a couple of reasons. One, they're getting too busy. They can't handle accounting anymore. They just need to get off their plate because their time is better utilized somewhere else. So they need someone to come in and kind of take that from the plate, or be somebody who they have the bookkeeper, they have that kind of, but they really want to take things to the next level. They don't want to, I kind of like, differentiate the bookkeeper versus CFO. It's kind of like in weight loss, or in the world of weight loss, you think of the bookkeeper as like the weight scale. You step on a weight scale and you're like, I don't know, like, this tells you information. Like, is my gaining weight? Am I gaining fat? Is this even accurate? Like, what do I do with it? Whereas, so someone else wants to go to that CFO level, who really wants to take the business to the next level and have that personal trainer, almost that coach, that accountability, who can interpret the numbers, who can be able to make strategic decisions going forward. Or so anyone who wants to start off just getting the accounting off their plate, or somebody who really wants to dig in and track results, track KPIs, and take things to the next level from a financial point of view. So,
Mhm.
it's a business owner, like I said, that usually ranges up to around $5 million in revenue.
Yeah, yeah. So your service is done for you type of service, right? So where you take on a client and you actually do the work for the client, is that right?
I do the work for the client, but again, sometimes the work is being done and I come in and I just become the advisor, the consultant on that, financial side. And I work with the in-house staff if they have that, and make sure that the processes are in place in order to get the data that we need to be able to track the results we're tracking.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And what about how do you work with your clients? Is it more virtual, in person? How does that look for you?
Yeah, it's virtual. So most of my clients are all across the country. I only have probably 2 clients in my home state here in Minneapolis, and everything's virtual. Similar to how we're chatting right now. Virtual meeting right here, and a lot of emails, phone calls. Everything is so cloud-based nowadays. Even the accounting software and the different Google Drives or all the different technology allows us this to be very efficient and done virtually.
Yeah, awesome. What about, so when it comes to what you do, is it state specific, or can you work with clients from all over the US and Canada? How does that work?
Yeah, so I focus anywhere in the U.S. Really is what and not to say that I can't work with someone from Canada, but obviously my training, my background is in the U.S. GAAPs and the U.S. accounting standards. Um, other countries have different accounting standards, and depending on kind of what we're doing, will dictate what I can do on those accounting standards. But anywhere across the U.S., like I said, I only have a couple clients, in my home state. The majority, 90% of my clients are all over the U.S. So anywhere, like I said, virtual makes it easy, makes it efficient to be able to do things that way.
Awesome, awesome. So what about influences, right? So are you a big reader? Do you listen to podcasts? How do you consume information?
Yeah, I'm a big, I love personal development, reading books. I love podcasts. I love YouTube. YouTube's I'm coming to realize it's one of my favorite new conventions. That all my content I consume is coming from YouTube, and throw it from my TV, and I just watch interviews, and I watch different, business influencers. And so whether it's podcasts, books, audiobooks, or YouTube is really what I consume my mind with.
Yeah, yeah.
Every morning, every evening, I'm consuming some type of business podcast
hmm
or content.
Awesome, awesome. Now let's jump into a book. Have you read any books what's one book you would say has had the biggest impact on just your life as an entrepreneur right
Yeah.
now?
I think my biggest book is probably Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mentioned that earlier, Robert Kiyosaki, just only because that's like the first book that really kind of opened my eyes to this other world beyond the corporate, kind of what you're taught as a kid and go to school and get a good job, and even when you're in college, like what your career path is going to be. You work in a private corporation and work all the way up to a CFO or whatever. So Rich Dad Poor Dad really kind of opened my eyes to that whole world of building wealth through different means, through businesses, through investments. And so that was like the first book for me that really impacted me a lot. And then another book I more recently have had a big impact on me. It's called The Burden of Freedom by Miles Monroe. And talking about that, now that you are an entrepreneur, now that you are a business owner, you have that, what he says, a burden of freedom. Like you have freedom, and that, comes with a cost. And what he kind of says is that slavery, it's, it's easier to become a slave in the sense that you have everything decided for you. When you're free and you really have to be disciplined in the way that you're going out, and, just being really disciplined in what you're doing, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and you talk about like just the life of an entrepreneur, right? Where you have to, now that you have the freedom, but you still have to, you're responsible for all of the results, right?
Yeah, exactly. When you're in slavery, you or bondage or whatever, you have everything done for you, everything decided for you. Your meals and what you're doing, your time, the time you spend. But when you're free, and I mean that by having your own time, your own schedule, it's really on you to go and produce the results. You don't have anyone doing, creating your schedule for you. So it's just really going to take that personal discipline to really buckle down and do it for yourself.
Yeah, awesome. Now, what about traits, right? What's one trait you'd say that you believe if anyone practiced that, that's the core trait? Not knowing that there's not just one, but what's one trait you think is responsible for success?
I think persistence, for sure, because there's a lot of other skill sets that aren't like you hear a lot of skills that people want to have. They got to, maybe they're bold or they're, visionary. And, I don't view myself as a typical, when you hear like the classic entrepreneurs who said they were selling since they're 3 years old, and like, I didn't resonate with that. That wasn't necessarily me. So that sometimes you don't have to have all those type of skills as you might think, but if you maybe lack in something, it's just staying persistent. Like you might not get the results as fast as somebody else because they have those advantages, that skill set. But if you stay persistent and you stay consistent, eventually you're going to find results and find success if you just kind of stick at it and don't, expect too much too soon. Just kind of stay in a slow and steady pace, and staying persistent.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that's so true as well too. I know for myself when I got started my business back in 2013, those first 2 years, I like to say, all I did was just get myself in a massive amount of debt, and it was pretty easy to get to a point. I was just saying, oh, just maybe screw it. I'm not. This isn't working. Let me just go do something
Yeah.
else. But I definitely believe that persistence, it's the key to getting where you need to go. Awesome.
Exactly. Persistence on your routine, persistence on, again, what we talked about earlier and what you're consuming your mind with, and persistence on just like the slow and steady, result, things are going to get you the results, whatever it is. Even just staying persistent and consistent is another one.
Awesome. So why do you think, as far as just I guess in just the entrepreneurial field and stuff like that, why do you think that most, because I know the statistics says that most individuals who try to start their own businesses fail, they just don't really make it to the other end on the other side. Why do you think that's the case? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Why people give up too soon?
Well, just why don't most people make it? Most individuals who do start, what do you think is a cause um, for the failure?
Yeah, I think, it's a couple of things. I think it's one, not having that persistence, that consistency, and understanding what it's going to take, that drive. And another thing I think is really important is having, like, they don't necessarily have the vision. They lose the vision of why they started. And if you can keep a hold of that, like what you're working towards. Okay, I mentioned before, when I started my business, I had a vision of being able to coach my kids' basketball games and being able to be there and have my own schedule. That I'm not going to be on quarter end or year end. I'm going to be stuck in the office until 8 o'clock. I did the public accounting. I did those 80-hour weeks, and so I had a vision for my future. So I think people when they start to get, find trouble or they come to resistance, that vision kind of starts to dwindle and they start to just be more short-term minded. I think if you can continue to keep the vision of why you're doing it, why you're doing it for, who you're doing it for, even too, that kind of helps you stay persistent.
Yeah, that's so powerful because I know, especially because the field I'm in as well too is just helping coaches, consultants grow their businesses, and I find that a lot of individuals, when they do get into it, they have that vision, which is really what causes them to say, you know what, I'm going to leave my job, come do this full time.
Yeah.
But then when you get into doing it, and then the results don't show up as quickly as possible, and all these different things, all of a sudden the vision starts being pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah.
You don't even know why you're doing it anymore. You're just like, you just go through this drudgery. But if you could keep your eyes on the prize, which is that vision, like you can move mountains, right? Because that's where real
Oh my
leverage, that's where
goodness.
success really lies,
That's
in being able to see that next step, right?
absolutely. Me and my wife are always kind of, planning a vision. We're talking about things we want to do, and we're driving around neighborhoods we want to live in one day. We just continue in our life, and we're just always visualizing what the next step, where we're going to be in 5 years, and just always having that on your mind. Because if it's constantly on your mind, the work doesn't seem like work anymore, because you know what you're working towards.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Good, good. Now, let's say someone, going back to what you do, what are a couple of big mistakes that you see most individuals who might need your services before they reach out to you, before they start working with you? What is some big mistakes you see that's being made out there?
Big mistakes as far as just what they're doing in accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think a big mistake people make is not having the process in place to get the data that they need, or even, I guess, a big mistake is not knowing what metrics they want to track, to find results. In any course of business, we want to have the data to track the metrics, whether it's marketing, however your marketing metrics are, your financial metrics. So even just understanding what those metrics are going to be so that we can track on that. A lot of things, but another big one is just not staying on top of it. And I know no one wants to do it. No one, it's not what they got into business, but as soon as you start to let that slip, all of a sudden you let a 1 month, 2 month slip, and then you're never going to want to go back and do it. And then it just becomes messy because you try to get through too quickly. So it becomes, and then you don't have reliable data to measure.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And you're saying and that's the problem you ultimately solve, right? So if an individual brings you on, you basically help them figure that out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because just having the knowledge and understanding can be so powerful once you actually start to really see and dig into the statements and dig into what's going on. Eyes are open, like lights are turned on. As far as some people doing it in the dark, they think they have a sense of how things are going. They kind of look at their checking account. They kind of just on their gut. But sometimes it really takes looking at things to really have their eyes open. So that's kind of what it is. Each month, you're going to be able to get a snapshot, and we're going to have a plan. And each month, we're going to see how we're doing to the plan, and we're going to make tweaks if we have to, either good or bad, or adjust the plan. But we're going to make sure we're sticking to the plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Now, what about, let's say someone isn't at the point where they are ready to hire you at the moment. How often do you recommend them doing finances, budgeting, all these different things? Is it daily, weekly, monthly? What do you typically recommend?
Yeah, it really depends, I guess, the volume of what they're doing and the complexity of the transactions they're doing. If it's pretty simple service-based, business, I would recommend, you can do it monthly, you can do it every other month, maybe quarterly. Again, it really depends on your level of not being overwhelmed by going in and doing it, not feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. There's 200 transactions I have to deal with. So if it's, and again, that's going to be specific to the business and just kind of their level of volume. But if you could do it monthly, that would be great. If you can do it quarterly, that would be great. But the biggest thing, especially for businesses starting out, just make sure, if you're not doing your accounting, your bookkeeping, whatever, just make sure you have a business checking account and you're running everything through that card. It's so difficult when you start commingling all this stuff. You paid for this and this card and this card, and it's so hard to track. Even if you don't update it for an entire year, all the data is in this one bank account or these two business bank accounts. That makes them so much easier if you're going to do it at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Perfect stuff. Love it, Matt. Now, let's say someone wants to get in touch with you. What is the best way for them to be able to reach out?
Yeah, you can go to my website, which is accountingfwd.com, which stands for Accounting Forward. Accountingfwd.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's another great way. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So look for my name, Matt Dybing. That'd be another great way to reach out to me.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. And guys, so if you're watching this interview on the live or the replay, to get connected with Matt, the links to his website, LinkedIn, they should either be right above or below the video. So you could click and get connected right to him. Awesome, Matt. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for making the time to stop by today and sharing what it is that you do. Do you have any final thoughts before we end here?
I would just remind everyone to kind of keep the vision of why you're doing what you're doing, and always have that on your mind every single day. Remind yourself, because some days are hard, some days are good, but as long as you always keep that vision, each day is not going to be, it's going to be a little less hard.
Awesome, man. Love it. Love it. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Well, Matt, hey, thanks again for stopping by, and we'll be in touch. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Awesome.